What's up everybody, it's Marnik van den Broek and this video is about how to prepare for your meeting, your presentation, your next pitch, big meeting, big stage, small meeting, webinar, video call, it doesn't matter, but you have to speak, you have to present. And we talked in another video, which I will tag below, about the universal structure, on how to structure your presentation, how to build that story in 4 simple steps. And I promised in that video, I will be making a video on how to prepare it, how to gather all the information that you need to put in that structure. Now, the good news is you do not need this preparation. Hold a minute. You do not need this preparation because you could just fill in the structure that I gave in that one video. If you have no time, you got to think fast on your feet. It's the same I do on stage when people are throwing information at me. I just fill in the structure. But what we'll do now is we'll take a step back and we'll actually properly prepare. Now, you could ask yourself, Marnik, why should I prepare myself if you just told me that if I watch that other video, I can just fill in the structure? Well, because if you fill in a structure and you start building your story, you are focused on the information you already have and you're going to start structuring it, which is great. But if you do not do a reflection, a brainstorm, a mind map first and prepare in the proper way, you're going to miss a lot of cool insights that are really going to make a difference in your meeting, are going to give you more credibility. And if you're going to get challenged, you'll have all the answers already in your backpack without you knowing it. So that's why I always say prepare first, then fill in the structure. If you have no time, you can skip this part, but it's crucial. It is crucial, so I wouldn't skip it unless it's absolutely necessary. So how do we fill in that universal 4-step structure with the right preparation? Well, very simple. I call it goal audience value. And it's super simple. Why is it super simple? Why do you always say super simple? But it's super simple because it's something marketeers, for example, do every single day. If you do an advertising campaign online, what is the first thing that you get asked by Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, if you want to do advertising? The first thing they ask is, what is your goal? What is your goal? What do you want to achieve? What is this? Clicks, apps downloads, survey fill-ins, you want to have more sales, more awareness. They ask you what is the specific thing that you want to achieve. That's the first question you get. Now the second question you get is, okay, if, for example, app downloads is what you want, well, what can you tell me about your audience? Who is your audience? What are they interested in? What is going on in the world? What can I target? Which data can I use to make sure that the right audience will get your message? And then the third question they ask is, but what do you got for them? What do you have to offer? What is of value to them? What do they need in copywriting, in visuals, in the way you present your product or service, that this specific audience will say, oh my God, I want this, and that they will grant you your goal, which is, in this case, for example, app downloads. That's what a marketeer does every single day. What is my goal? What do I know about my audience? And what does this audience want? Take it all together, and I form it into a campaign with beautiful visuals and copywriting and movies and videos and things like that. Now, if you look at ourselves, and we're talking about meetings, by presentation, pitching, we work on a product, we worked on a service, we have been working on it for weeks, for months, we have a whole roadmap, a solution, and now comes the most crucial time, and that's to present it to potential clients, present it to the board, stand on stage at a conference and show the world what your startup or your company is doing. And we just put together a slide deck, maybe the evening before. We say that we were going to wing it and we hope it lands. That's what we do. And then we're surprised that people aren't as enthusiastic or convinced as we are. We spent months on the product. We spent 5 minutes on the story that actually needs to make it happen. Let's flip that around. Let's start being that marketeer also for our meetings, for our presentations. So the simple thing is, that's why I say it's simple, that you need to do to prepare a great story before you put it in the universal structure, which I talk about in the other video, is just do a goal audience value exercise. Now, the sharp cookies amongst you will be saying, yeah, Marnik, okay, the goal I get, then you have the audience, you have the value, but what about the solution? When do we talk about the product or the service? I'm skipping that because if I ask you, anyone watching right now, what is your product? What is your service? What is your big idea about? You will give me an hour of explanations. Oh, it does this, and this is the features, and we can do that, and then it's online in the cloud, and we can do this, and we can do that, and you can start explaining the whole thing. So that's not going to be hard. But the moment I ask you, for this specific meeting, what do you want to achieve? What's your goal? Then most people become quiet. Well, they're like, well, to inspire, inform about our product, maybe get a budget. There, a lot of people already fail because you do not know what your goal is, why you're walking in function of what are you building your story. So that's the first question you are going to ask yourself before you start building a story. I have this meeting, I have this conference, I have this webinar. What do I want to achieve? When am I happy? When is my story successful? It could be that you need budget. It could be that you need the approval to get a new hire. It could be that you're a motivational speaker and you want everybody to go do yoga after your talk. But what is the big idea? What is the big red thread that you're going to work towards, your goal, and that you know that if you did a great job telling your story, people will grant you that goal? That's the question. There's only one. There's not 3 goals. There's one goal. What is it? And if you know that goal, no matter who challenges you in a meeting, you will always be going back to that goal. This is where I want to go. Don't distract me. This is where I need to go. So that's the first thing. Think about it. What is your goal of your next meeting? If you can answer it really quick, great. But most people, there the hesitation already starts. The second part is, in function of that goal, what do you know about your audience? And like I said, we're not building a story. We're doing our preparation to eventually fill it into the structure. So what do you know about the audience? And it can be anything. The age, who has the most influence, who's at the table. Those are, like to call it, low-hanging fruits. But what more do you know? What is their world about? What are they bumping into? What have they tried before in function of your goal and your solution? What is happening in politics and economics that is influencing the way they look at the world? Who are they currently working with? What is their current product? What are they going to challenge you on? What is the most critical person going to challenge you on? Those type of questions you need to list. So you have a whole list of things that you know about the audience, about their world, the good things, the bad things, what they're bumping into, they're challenging, their current way of working. You list it all. You could potentially be using in the story in function of that goal. Because if your goal changes, your audience also changes. Your audience is, of course, the same people at the table, but the way they look at the world and what is going on depends on what you want to achieve. So if you want to go for a budget approval, you're going to have to think about, how does the audience look at this budget approval? Why are they not going to give you that budget approval? What is the current status of the company? Are they in good waters or bad waters, rough waters? Things like that. But if I then say, well, budget is not the goal is to get the new hire, which I just said, the new hire, it's the same audience, but you have to look at it differently, because why wouldn't they grant you the new hire? How is the current staffing going on? That's a whole different worldview based on the goal. So what is your goal? What do you know about your audience? List. It can be a very long list. I'm not saying you're going to use everything. And then the toughest question is, now that you know where you want to take this audience, now that you know who this audience is and potentially have elements to use in your story, what do they want? What do they crave? What do they need? What is of value to them? And that's a tough question, because you're going to start from your own worldview. You're going to be like, oh, but our product and our project and my idea is great for reason X, Y, and Z. That's great, but that doesn't mean that it's of value to this specific audience. So what do they want? To make it very concrete, let's say you want to convince your partner that you want to go skiing, but they love summer holidays. Well, then your goal is that you want them to approve, let's go skiing instead of a summer holiday. Okay, what do you know about your audience? Well, it's your partner, and they like to be tanned, they like to party, they like to have good food, have fun in a very relaxing environment. You list everything you know that your partner likes or dislikes about certain holidays. And then you see, well, if I know about this audience, what is of value? Well, the value could be, looking at what you want to achieve, get the ski holiday approved, is that, and it sounds stupid, but it's just to give you an example, is that you tan 10 times faster through the reflection of the snow. So if you want a very nice tan, you can get that, of course, on the beach, but your tan will be way better on the slopes, because in the sun with the reflection of the snow, it's beautiful. Another value could be is that you like great food, but you always have that guilt. I eat a lot of food, I might put on some weight, the calories, there's always this guilt. Well, you don't have that on a ski holiday because you're exercising all day, so you're burning calories, so you can eat the great food on the slopes without any guilt. that could be potentially of value for this audience. So you see, it's a simple example, but that's what I mean. What is your goal? What do you know about your audience? And what is the value? If you do this, and most of the time when I do workshops, people say, well, this is not very hard. It will take me 10 minutes to do. And then I say, I'm going to give you 2 hours. And they say, 2 hours, Marnik, for this exercise? Yes. If you really think this through, it's definitely, if you're not used to thinking like this, it will take you a longer time until you get the hang of it. Because most people jump into a meeting, they jump into a pitch, they form a slide deck, they think they have a story in their head, but they have no clue where they're going. They only start from their own worldview and have no clue what the audience is about. They have no idea what that audience really craves because they haven't thought about it up front. And if you haven't thought about it, it's very easy to challenge you. It's very easy to get the reaction of the audience like, this is not for us. It's not our product. We don't really care. We don't see us using it. And you get frustrated because you are convinced you have the best idea in the world. So that's how you prepare. Goal, audience, value, and then of course you have your solution, but you don't have to think about that. Now, how does this link to the other video, like I said, which I'm going to tag below on the structure, is now that you have your goal, you know where you're going. Now that you have your audience, you have all the information you need about their world, and you have your value need, what you have to offer in your perfect little world, and you just have to fill it into the structure. And I'm going to talk about the whole structure, just watch the other video, but basically the structure I'm talking about is relate, offer, explain, achieve. The relate part is where you talk about your audience world, which you take elements from your audience preparation and you put it first. Then you talk about your world, and your world is full of value. It's where your product, your service, your idea is already in motion, and it's serving the customer, it's serving your colleagues, and it's beautiful, and it's with everything that they need, and you know they need it because you took it from your value preparation. Then you come to the explain part. Your solution is where you talk about your roadmap, your 5-step plan, how the product or the tool works. You just fill that in. And then you have your last part in the structure is the achieve phase. It's getting what you want. And if you did your job right, the audience will know what you want. But if you emphasize it even more, you know what you want. You know where this whole story must lead because you thought about your goal and build everything in function of achieving that goal. So you just have to fill that in. Audience goes into the relate, value need goes into the offer, the solution goes into explain phase, and the goal goes into achieve. And if it's still a bit blurry what I just said about the structure, just watch the other video. It's super straightforward, but then you know the structure. So you got this video, goal, audience, value. You have the video about the structure, and if you really want to know everything about it, go read the book. It just came out last week. Back, I have to speak 21 answers to the most frequently asked questions on public speaking. And chapter 10, chapter 11, chapter 12, 13, those are all about content. They're all about how to prepare, how to structure, and use exactly what I'm shortly saying in this video for yourself. And the good news, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about it, the good news is that if you do this, and let's say you do not do the structure, let's say you don't bring a story, you don't bring a presentation, you do not build a slide deck, but you just did your goal, audience, value. You did the effort of thinking about what you want to achieve, who's in front of you, how they look at the world, and what they truly crave. And you just walk into any meeting, offline, online, you will be unshaken. You will be credible because you will be steering the meeting in function of your goal, of your own agenda. And you will pinpoint exactly when a person says, you know what we're bumping into? You know what the problem is in this company? X, Y, and Z. And you will be like, that's exactly what I prepared. And you are not surprised, and you already have an answer ready because you already prepped this for yourself. You knew this person was bumping into that. You knew this person was going to say it because you prepared it. And then all you have to do is just offer them a little value. Well, we did the same at that company, and what they achieved was X, Y, and Z. And I think if I'm hearing you right, this is something that you really could use within your company. And the other person will go like, exactly, that's exactly what we need. Oh my God, you listen very carefully. And you'll be like, yes, I know, because I prepared everything that you're just saying to me, because I took the time to look at the world from your viewpoint, list everything that you're thinking, putting values next to it, and I know exactly where this meeting is going. And that could be that you say, well, Martin, you cannot know everything if you don't know your audience, how can you know all this stuff? You know more than you think. If you really know your business, if you really know what your business, your industry, your department, the function that you are in, you know more than you think. Definitely about colleagues, about board members, about clients, because basically everybody's going to ask you the same questions. If you truly know your business, you know what people are bumping into. You know what people want. And you definitely know what you want. Take this book, for example. The content of this book is the 21 questions I get all across the world for over 10 years in the business. So every workshop, every coaching I come to, I can list these 21 questions and people will say, that's exactly the question I had before I walked in here. Yes, because I know my industry, and the same goes for you. So take the time, and if you do not know it, make an assumption, test it in the meeting, during your presentation, or check up front, call some people up, ping pong with some colleagues. There's more information out there. Take the time, put in the effort, because it takes more time doing 5 meetings, 5 presentations to get the same result that versus preparing yourself properly, taking the time and only needing 1 meeting to get buy-in or really rock that stage. So that's what I do. Goal audience value. That's what every marketeer does for every advertising campaign. That's what everybody does that really wants to push through a project, but people rarely do it for a pitch. They rarely do it for a presentation and then get surprised in the meeting on stage. Hey, this is not landing. They're not granting me the budget. They're not giving me the new hire. They're not signing the deal. Yes, because you didn't prepare. You thought you're going to wing it, but you winged it from your own worldview, and that's not going to work. So I hope it helps. Check it out, Goal Audience Value. Check out the book if you want to read it step by step. It's worldwide available. And if you want to then put it into the structure, watch the video that I tagged below, and you can see how that structure works. Hope it helps. I was Martin van den Broek. Until next time, bye-bye.
Are you listening? Damn.